Hey YouTube, this is my 4th system collection video. Now the first system collection was for my Super Nintendo, the second was for the Sega Dreamcast, and the third was for the PlayStation 3. And this one is for, as you can see, my beloved SEGA Master System. Now I was first aware of the 8-bit consoles in the 80s, friends talking who had had either the Nintendo or the Master System. But again, it's pre-internet, it's all just word of mouth and the odd magazine and maybe the odd advert. I don't really remember too many of the television adverts. Back then in the 80s, I had my Spectrum. And I think it was around 1990 I acquired my first system, but I was first exposed to an actual play of this unit from my next door neighbour, and he was like, well, no, I've got SEGA Master System, why don't you come over and play it? And I was absolutely blown away by these bold, vibrant, colourful graphics that this thing was pushing out, and obviously the music, or the beeps and the bops that this thing produces just far surpassed anything that the Spectrum was capable of. And colour at long last, so just absolutely thought this was the next level. Got this in around 1990, and it was from a friend who was selling his unit to get upgrade to the Sega Mega Drive. And back then, I was probably one console generation behind at the time. Probably up into the SNES and N64, then I was sort of on point when I was earning my own money. But back then, Mum and Dad were in charge, and they weren't easily influenced back then, as I allude to in a Spectrum video. But the idea was that he was selling this, and it was around September, October, and I hadn't chosen or spoke to my mum and dad about what I wanted for Christmas yet, although I'm sure I was dropping big hints about getting a console and upgrading the Spectrum. Anyway, he lent me this with 3 games, lent it to me for a week or 2 actually, it was quite good, and what were the games? It was Wonder Boy, Dragon's Trap, what else was it? Ease, Vanished Omens, and a couple of other games. I can't remember what they were. No, I really can't remember. When I became a collector, I decided to plumb for the Master System 1 unit, which is what I had back in the day, and back then I thought this thing looked brilliant compared to that Mark II version, which just looked really cheap, really tacky, and just really plasticky and just dull, no sort of design aesthetic. Where this one, you've got these crazy graphics that just really, as a kid, you see that thing, it just makes it look really high tech, and the card reader, and this unit also can display RGB SCART, which is what I use the display with now. Whereas the Mark II, I think you can just get the crappy composite, and that's your lot. So much better picture quality out of this, and although it's not particularly a heavy unit, it just feels like better quality than the Mark II. The other things I have for it, I brought this up in a pickups video a little while ago, was my rapid fire unit, which you're going to need for a lot of these games, the shooters and things like this, where your action games, save those fingers and thumbs. Standard controller, which is, by today's standard, it's quite blah, and I never really liked these hard sort of edges to the thing, but it was simple, and again, it sort of had the same, the graphics on there, being a designer myself, lovely and retro, deliciously retro. And I also picked up one of these things. So I found this came in a bundle with a Master System that I got once, and I'll mention that a bit later when we go through the games. But this thing's like an old school 80s car gear stick, and I haven't really used it that much. I know it gets a bit of a bad rap, but it does feel a bit crappy, to tell the truth. So there's that one. I'm going to go through the games. I've got about 77-ish games, and like I say in every collection video, I'm not after a complete set. I'm not just going to get up any sort of drivel. Just the games that I remember back in the day, the games I owned, the games I played around friends, the games I wanted to own, and games that since becoming a collector I've researched and found out that they just seem a bit interesting, or they're supposedly very good. But there's some that I'm going to mention later as well that I've been playing, and I will probably sell if I just not getting on with them. I don't really want shelf filler for my collection. I just want lean state. We'll start with A and work my way through the alphabet. So first one is Action Fighter. Again, look at these game cases. Now I much preferred these and was disappointed with the Super Nintendo when I got those. They were using cardboard. I thought these were clamshells, were far more sturdy obviously, and really protected the games. Most of my collection, by the way, is complete. There's the odd manual that's missing, but I might highlight that later, but I'm not going to open all these things up. But yeah, the design of these cases, you know, they're so nostalgic. I know they're a product of their time, but I just feel that, you know, that doesn't really tell you anything about the game. You've got the screenshots on the back, but it just seems a bit lazy. I know what they were going for, to create like a brand, uniform brand set and a look, but some titles here really use the inlay for different typography and really go to town on the artwork. But yeah, there's a lot that look very simplified like this. But anyway, product of their time. Action Fighter, haven't played it for a long time. It's kind of a top-down racing game where you've got like a weaponized bike that turns into a car, and an aircraft and things like that, and you've got to, is it escape or chase someone? I can't really remember, but yeah, it plays really well, that one. Next we've got Afterburner, and yeah, this isn't that great. Bless them, they really tried for this thing, and back in the day you would look at this and you would be like, oh my god, this looks incredible. But you go back to it now, and I think with 8-bit systems, they were at their best when they didn't really push the tech too much. They really saw the machine for what it was and just didn't go taking the piss. This one, they really tried to push that kind of scaling sprite effect, and yeah, it's not, technically it's not a bad conversion, but I just don't think it's that much fun now, really. Alex Kidd in Miracle World. Yeah, with the system as well, you had those built-in games. Obviously got Slug built into this one. Absolutely loved this game back in the day. Would go with a friend Pete when his dad would allow me in, and him into the front room because he owned his Master System, his dad. But when we were allowed in there, I remember just drinking lovely hot tea and passing the controller around, playing this through. And yeah, between us we did complete it back then, although I've played it since and it gets very tasty the further you go into it. But a great game, great game. Favourite Alex Kidd for sure, although this is probably a close second. Alex Kidd in Shinobi World. Yeah, so obviously taking the Shinobi franchise and sort of meshing that into the Alex Kidd character. Excellent game, love the music in it. Alien Syndrome. I haven't given too much time to this one. This is one of the more recent pickups I've had for the Master System. Apparently very, very good. So one I've kind of discovered for the Master System anyway, since being a collector. I knew of the game back on the Mega Drive and in the arcades, and I believe it's a very good port. Next is Asterix. I finished this game back in the day. Beautiful, colourful game, as well a lot of the Master System is, but this looked like you were playing a little interactive cartoon, and on an 8-bit system coming from the Spectrum, yeah, this was just next level stuff. Plays Asterix is like in an action platformer, along with his tubby companion Obelix. Uses his arse to bash through blocks, and yeah, Asterix would punch things. But I wouldn't mind playing this through again to see if it's still beatable with my more mature brain and reactions. Next we've got Astro Warrior. Plays very well. Some of the shooters that I've got or have seen for this are a bit complicated with the trying to go for 3D, and it just doesn't work. Keep it simple, and this is more of a top-down vertical scrolling shooter. Plays really well. Really enjoyed it. Played it the other day. Aztec Adventure, I owned this way back when, and when I was collecting for the Master System, or started to, yeah, this one came up and I'd completely forgot all about it, and I was just, my nostalgia high was just at 11. It was, right, I remember that game, I need to jump onto YouTube and find some gameplay, and all those memories came flooding back. It was a joy to behold. So there's that one, Aztec Adventure. Next we got Battle Outrun, and this is Sega's answer basically to Chase HQ, and it just doesn't play very well at all. Doesn't play well at all, it's just not fun. Probably going to be selling that one. Bubble Bobble on the other hand, nice simple game for the 8-bit, very playable, great gameplay, excellent. Must own on the system. California Games, first introduced to the California Games on this or the Spectrum. I probably played it on the Spectrum, but this just with obviously the colourful graphics. Yeah, used to play this and have little competitions, groups of our friends with this. Brilliant. One of my probably most nostalgic and favourite, fondest games on the system is Castle of Illusion. Played this through multiple times, completed it loads of times back in the day, and I remember my sister actually, this is one of the games my sister would actually play and really enjoyed, and she was quite good at it as well. So, and I'd love to go back and play that one quite soon. Chase HQ, yeah, it's not the best port, but it is better than Battle Outrun. Just a bit dull now. Another game that I remember, and the neighbour who had the Master System, this is one of the games we would go around and play, and that was Shoplifter. What a game. What a game. Difficult. Remember you could, wasn't Superman in there? You had to do something, and the little Superman character would fly along. Remember something about that. But yeah, saving hostages and getting them back whilst dodging all these bullets. Brilliant game. Cloudmaster, you're on your cloud like Monkey from Monkey Magic, scrolling horizontally, and it's a shooter. And yeah, plays really well. Really like it. Next, what are we on? D. I know it's not regarded as a great port, but me and my mate Pete, we both had this, and we would play 2 players on this, and it was great fun. Really, really, really pushed the system, and arguably the system couldn't handle it because the sprites would always flicker if too many came on screen. It would go really slow. But back then, you noticed it, but you didn't really care, and you didn't really ask why. You just got on with it, and but now, yeah, probably not good. But when Pete comes around next for a few drinkies, I'd like to boot that up. And Dura Racer, not like the arcade, completely different, more of like an isometric vertical top-down racer. When I collected this, become a collector, played this and completed it, and I remember beating it back in the days. Quite easy to beat, but really lovely gameplay. And I remember mistakenly, foolishly selling this, and yeah, I had to buy it back into the collection. I sort of missed it. It's just a good pick up and play game, that one. Fantastic. Dizzy, need to give this some time. Yeah, with the Spectrum, I used to love the Dizzy games. Sorry Dave if you're watching, but I do like the egg. Yeah, really need to give this a boot up, and it's with the Codemasters games, it comes on this sort of curved cartridge, which is quite strange. I remember having issues with this one booting up, but yeah, gonna have to look into that. Next we've got the 2 fantasy zones. One, which is very good. We played this around my mate Pete. Hard, cutesy, but bloody hard. And for the second one, they just tweaked it. Fantasy Zone 2 is the game to get. If you're going to get any of the Fantasy Zone games, get that one. This Game Ground I owned back in the day, and I was just addicted to it. I absolutely loved it. Very unique game, and I think this is better than the Mega Drive version. You basically got to get think of like Smash TV, but just with one fixed screen where you're going from the bottom to the top, and you get different characters with different abilities. One's a grenadier, one's, if you, I remember, you hose a button down, you sort of machine guns. One, you got an archer, like a dwarf. You know, they've all got different melee attacks, and some have got more projectile attacks. You've just got to get through these different scenarios from the top to the bottom, and then get all your characters through. Brilliant, really addictive, really unique. I would love to see them make a remake or something of that game. Brilliant. Galaxy Force. Now this is what I was talking about earlier. Technically, this is quite a marvel on the spectrum, because you've got this kind of sprite that animates in a faux pseudo 3D, and enemies are coming at you in 3D, and it's very clever how they got the system to do that, but my god, it's so hard to play, and the gameplay and the fun factor suffers because of it. It's just pushing the system too far, and the gameplay's not there. Basically, you've got nothing in the background, then all of a sudden, boom, the sprite comes up, and then boom, it's right in front of you again for the third kind of step of animation, and it's just really difficult to react to, avoid, and it's just really clunky. But a technical showcase for the system for sure. Gauntlet. I don't think I've really given this enough time, which is a crying shame. Played it in the arcade, Gauntlet, and yeah, we used to be down our local leisure centre, and we'd all play that, the 4-player version. I always used to like being the elf, and I've always liked being the elf in these sort of games, even up to now with Diablo 3 and things like that. I always picked like a sort of projectile-y character. Ghouls and Ghosts, very good conversion actually. Very good conversion. I haven't played too much of it because I played this on the Super Nintendo. Finished that, by the way. I wonder how difficult this one is. Probably balls hard, retro hard, but yeah, I'm gonna have to boot this one up again. Golden Axe. Yeah, not the best port at all. One player only, which is a shame. Graphics don't look too bad, but that's probably because they can only have X amount of characters on the screen before the system kind of, you know, wouldn't be able to handle it, and that's why you haven't got the 2 players. But yeah, not the best port, this one. Now this is a game that's probably top on the Master System list of games I really want to play. And that's Golden Axe Warrior. Basically Sega's rip-off of Zelda, and a lot of people say this is better than the early Zelda games, so kudos to Sega for that. It certainly looks better. Yeah, really looking forward to playing that one. Another game I played and owned back in the day. Golvelius, Valley of Doom, another RPG, and this sort of opened my imagination to RPGs back then. I was quite intrigued on the spectrum of Hobbit and games like that, but the idea of going on this epic adventure and quest, that was me. That was really getting my geek on back then. And the graphics, lovely sort of anime look to it as well. Part top down and part horizontal scrolling game. Lots of secrets. Yeah, I want to complete this one. Next, my only card game, and that's Hang On. I've only got that in the manual. Don't have the case. I need to pick that up. I couldn't say what the conversion's like, but obviously much better, no doubt, on the Mega Drive. Heavyweight Champ. Now I know I preferred Rocky, in all honesty, because it's Rocky. But when I saw the graphics on this, did Scott have this? My next door neighbour? Maybe. But the graphics on this just looked brilliant. The sprites were bigger, more detailed. Yeah, I really liked this game. God knows what it plays like now. Probably shite. But yeah, I'm gonna play that one. Right. We are on now. An impossible mission. And I can't tell you much about it really. Sadly. Like an action platformer. Looks a little bit like Zillion, which I'll be coming to later. And I remember is it this one where it's got really incredible animation for the main character? Yeah, I haven't really played it, so I can't say too much about that one. James Bond 2 Robocop. Played a bit of this back in the day, but I remember Robocop more fondly, let's say, on my friend's Commodore Amiga. But this is supposed to be a very good port. Obviously, the fact that it was Robocop and Robocop back then was just the best film in the world. Next, we got Kinsidon, which is kind of a side-scrolling hack and slash. I think it's quite difficult, as many of these 8-bit system games are. Yeah, need to give that one a bash. Don't really know too much about that one. I've seen lots of gameplay of it, and that's why I picked it up. I thought it looked quite good. Land of Illusion. I haven't really played this, but of course, seeing I loved Castle of Illusion, I know this isn't supposedly as good. Well, it certainly will be for me. It's going to take a lot to beat that, purely just down to nostalgia, if anything else. But it looks very similar graphically, and yeah, Disney did some great games back in the 8 and 16-bit era. Oh, Donald Duck and the Lucky Dime Caper. Oh, I loved this. Finished it back in the day, and booted it up probably a couple of months ago, and I got my ass kicked. So yeah, keen to go get into this one again. Donald, you have to get your nephews Huey, Dewey and Louie, and yeah, each stage takes you to a different part of the world's map, and yeah, I loved it back in the day, like playing a cartoon. Next we got Sega's answer to Castlevania, Master of Darkness, and this is really good. Good music in it as well for 8-bit, and I gotta say, the 8-bit systems, for me, graphically, the Master System's better than the NES. Audio though, yeah, the Nintendo's got to win that one. However, a bit of a segue here, I would love to get my console modded so it can play RF, because a lot of the games can have the RF capability, which is obviously far superior, built into them. But I've heard that it's either expensive or a tricky mod to undertake. So yeah, if you get back to me about that, that would be great. On with the games. Moonwalker. Yeah, I remember really liking Moonwalker on the Mega Drive. I never owned this back in the day, but I found this one quite cheap, and I thought we'll give it a go on the 8-bit, and I still haven't got around to playing it yet. Michael Jackson, yeah. Let's swiftly move on. Ms. Pac-Man. Apparently much better than, well, the arcade version's better than the original Pac-Man. Haven't really played this, but I love Pac-Man as a brand, as a game system collection, and it's one of my favourite and nostalgic early arcade games. Yeah, looks great, and again, this is the sort of game that would play really well on an 8-bit system, because it's keeping it simple so they can really concentrate on gameplay and fun. The New Zealand Story, the follow-up to Bubble Bobble, excellent. Excellent game, simple, colourful, great gameplay, great fun, love it. The Ninja, my mate Pete had this, and I remember playing it, and I just couldn't get on with it. I just found it really, really difficult, but he was quite good at it, so I used to just watch him play it. Yeah, and I've got it just through nostalgia. I've got to boot this one up again and see if it kicks my ass like it did back in the day. Speaking of kicking ass, Ninja Gaiden. Bit like Shinobi, that sort of game. And this is apparently quite a competent port for the Master System, so I'll look to give this a go. I know Ninja Gaiden's always been a difficult game. It certainly is, even on the more modern systems, so yeah, I'll probably get my ass handed to me in that. Operation Wolf, and without a light gun, not really that playable with the old control pad. So I had this back in the day, but I had the gun. Did I have the gun? Or no, I don't know if I had this one actually. My friend did, and he had the gun. So yeah, there's that one. Classic game, obviously, but maybe not a particularly great conversion. Outrun, one of the better racers really on the system. Not perfect by any means, but graphically it's that lovely happy medium of good gameplay but quite advanced graphics as well, the sprite scaling and things like that, and the music, the soundtrack's actually quite good on this. I know I was just bashing the Master System sound capabilities, but on this it's very competent. So yeah, good game, definitely pick that one up. Love Pac-Man, so is Pac-Mania. Oh, like an isometric view for this one. Yeah, love Pac-Man as a brand, so can you give that one a bash? Paperboy, love this on the Specky, and I remember having this on, and because I enjoyed it on the Specky, I remember getting this back in the day for the Master System. So that one. Only got the first one of these, but this plays really well. It's a shooter, Power Strike, a vertical shooter. Yeah, really good. Very arcadey, plays really well. I know the second one's supposedly better, but the second one's obviously much more expensive as well, although I am keeping an eye out for one that comes up that's of a reasonable price, but very few and far between. Cycle Fox, great action platformer game where you can be either fox, tigers at the hippo and monkey, right? Maybe another character, and they've all got slightly different abilities, like one can jump higher, one can jump further, one can run faster, and you just pick which character you want. Really loved this game back in the day, and yeah, glad it's in my collection. R-Type, definitely one of the best shooters on the system, a fantastic conversion, and I played this to death back in the day. And you got the synonymous Alien Geiger inspired first level boss there, and there he is again. But the boss I really liked was this. It was a level. It was a massive red. Was it red or green on this one, and then red on the Super Nintendo version? A massive spaceship, and you just had to circumnavigate this thing, blowing off parts of it in the guns. And oh, I used to love that level. Brilliant game. You've got it. If you're collecting the Master System, that's an absolute must. Rainbow Islands. I haven't really played it on the Master System, but I remember going up with my friend Mark's up at the farm and playing it loads on his Amiga. He really liked it. It never really kind of appealed to me. This one did, on the other hand. Rampage. Again, I would go to Mark's house when he had his Commodore 64 and play it there, and I remember getting it on the Specky. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Didn't really play it a few times in the arcade, but I think I got to it first probably on the home computer and consoles before finding it in an arcade. Well, that's my memory of it anyway. Yeah, brilliant. Can't go wrong with that. And another classic game for the system and the Spectrum. And this is it. When I went from the Spectrum to the Master System and saw how much better these at least looked, yeah, I sort of rebought a lot of my favourites from the collection. That's Rastan, which is a sort of horizontal hack and slash. Great game, bloody hard. Right, let's clear the deck and get going again. Right, on to the R section now. We're getting there. Robocop versus Terminator. Love the films, love the franchises. And this plays really, really well, and it looks stunning on the system. The graphics are fantastic. And I'm looking at this now. The cover, I'm sure it's legit, but it almost looks like a scan. Let me know if it looks dodgy on your copies. Nah, it's got to be legit. It looks fine. Looks fine. Yeah, played it. Quite tricky, but nice and playable still. Got a couple levels in, if memory serves. Really good. Rocky. Loved this as well back in the day, and the little training stages that you would have in between. And I'm sure I beat Drago. I'm sure of it. Or was that just wishful thinking? I'm sure I did. Because you would play Creed first, then Train, then Clubber Lang, then Train, and then Drago. I mean, that doesn't sound like a very long game, but oh yeah, love boxing games even back then, and this was obviously a sign of it. And yeah, after Rocky films. Sagaya, aka Darius. So you've got these biomechanical fish-like enemies, side-scrolling shooter. Really like it, plays really well. Secret Command. Look at that though. What a terrible illustration. It's like Playmobil or something. But yeah, this isn't a bad little game. Sort of a vertical, top-down shooter similar to Akari Warriors. Tricky, but yeah, good. Don't mind it. Shadow of the Beast. Don't really remember playing this. I played it a bit on the Amiga. I don't know, it's probably a bit old hat, but it always looked and sounded great, but it was fucking ridiculously tricky to play. And quite boring. I never really got into it. But I thought the character looked really cool. Yeah, don't know what this is like. Haven't really played that one yet. Shinobi. Very good conversion, I think, for the Master System. Owned this back in the day. I haven't really played it for a while, this version, so yeah, that's one that needs to be booted up. I had this back in the day, Slapshot. I used to love it. Played it for hours on end, picking your team, and yeah, you had these little like punch-ups between each other. Just go to like a side screen like that, and almost like those robots, and you'd just be punching each other, and yeah, and then you had your penalties and things like that. Brilliant, I used to love it. Used to love it. Next we got Sonic the Hedgehog. Not really a conversion from the Sega Mega Drive, but more of its own game built for the system, and it is excellent. Again, you've got to get it for the system. I remember seeing it in the magazines, and the idea of, you know, the speed was being touted for this thing, and being a new IP, I thought the character looked really cool back then, and the idea of running fast and speeding through these levels, because I used to be quite a fast runner back in the day, and did a lot of athletics, so I like the idea of a fast character. Looks gorgeous. I think I finished this one, but yeah, fantastic game. Not a huge Sonic fan, mine, but don't mind it, but I'm not a huge fan. And I haven't even played the second version on the Master System. Played it quite a bit on the Mega Drive. Must give that a bash. I thought this was a dud, just without knowing anything really about this, but apparently it's quite good. I haven't booted it up yet. Sonic Chaos. Yeah, apparently it's got its fans, so let me know what that one's like down in the comments below. I did have Speedball. I got rid of it. Great game, but not quite as good as Speedball 2. Fantastic game, fantastic. Obviously far superior on the Amiga, but a very good conversion for the Master System. Next we've got Spider-Man, my favourite superhero way back when. Don't really remember too much about this. My friend did have it on the Master System, and I remember playing it, but I didn't own it. But just picked it up again. Need to give that some more time. Next we've got Streets of Rage, and I've only got the first one. I don't have the second one. Apparently the second one's not supposed to be that good on the Master System yet. I prefer on the Mega Drive the second one, but the first one's still really good. But this plays really, really well. Must give it more time though. Good conversion. It's quite rare that you get a decent beat 'em up on the Master System like that. Star Wars, I booted this up. I played okay. I loved the kind of 8-bit rendition of the John Williams score. Need to give that more time. Super Monaco GP, not very good. Probably going to sell it. Super Space Invaders. Do love my Space Invaders games. Very good. I enjoy it. Nice and simple, and plays really well on the 8-bit. Teddy Boy. I used to think this game looked crap. My mate Pete had it, but he was really good at it. And it was one of those where I just sort of kick back, drink some of his mum's delicious strong tea, and yeah, just watch him play it. But just thought the name of it and this weird little lad going around these platform levels was like Pshirt Gun. Very sort of strange fantasy kind of platform layouts though. I had to get it for nostalgia. Just got great nostalgic memories of watching my mate play that. The Terminator, bloody hard. I played it ages ago and I remember it being bloody hard. Yeah, just need to play it again. Right, these. On to W, and what series can I be talking about here. It's just, for me, as soon as anyone says Master System, I think Alex Kidd in this. Wonder Boy. My neighbour Scott had this, Shoplifter as I said, and one coming up. And those are the three I really remember playing around his, and we just taking turns just passing the controller. Loved it. Really colourful and cute and good gameplay, and it wasn't too hard, but it wasn't easy. Obviously further on you got. Really want to complete this one as well. Yeah, great game, but completely different and not as good as this. Wonder Boy Monster Land. Now I played this around Pete's again when his dad would allow me in and him into the front room to play it on his system. And it was another one at Alex Kidware. We were just taking turns with a controller, drink Pete's mum's tea, and yeah, try and get far in this one. And we did get quite far. I booted up a number of times. I know Retro Red Steve loves this game. It's his favourite game of all time, I believe. And yeah, good call, mate. Good call. Just great memories with this. And again, it had that lovely RPG mechanic where you could upgrade your shoes, your shield, armour, sword, things like that, and your magic. But you also had a timer in this, so not only were your enemies against you, but so was time. So, but yeah, just love this game. You've got to get the Wonder Boy series on the Master System. Wonder Boy Monster World. Excellent. Is this the one where you change into the different animals, or was that? No, it's Dragon's Trap. Yeah. All brilliant, brilliant games. Get them. Right, let's move that. Just slightly over there. Have a slug of wine. For the last few games. Now, I don't think this is supposed to be a great conversion, but Xenon 2 Mega Blast for the Master System, and obviously, probably, definitely not a patch on the Amiga version, which I remember playing fondly, again, up at my mate Mark's at the farm. Yeah, doesn't play as well at all, but an interesting conversion. Ease the Vanished Omens, and like I said at the start of this vid, this was my first real introduction to sort of RPG mechanic where you go around, talk to people, go in villages, go on this quest, and yeah, my mind was racing. This is exactly the sort of game that really appealed to me. But sadly, no manual for this one. So yeah, if anyone wants to sell a manual for this, tap me up. Fantastic game. Want to play that one and want to finish that one. And the last two games in a series, but very different from each other. Zillion. I played Zillion 2 first around Scott's. He had this one. And I thought the graphics were fantastic. Gameplay was a bit dull. You're sort of on this bike, going from left to right, shooting and jumping over baddies and pits and things like that, over obstacles. But the graphics, very anime look, and it is based on an anime, I believe. And you could turn into a robot and things like that. Just thought it was great. So when I heard of Zillion, I thought, right, let's give this a bash. And this is completely different. This is more of kind of a adventure game, really, where you're navigating different rooms and you have to input keys, codes and things like that to unlock doors, and you've got to rescue two people, two of your mates, is it CJ and Apple, and then get out of there before the place blows up. And it was one of the first game, one of the first games I remember completing on the Master System. I remember it was a nice day outside. Mum was like, "Are you going to go out and play?" "Shut up, Mum, I'm playing Zillion." It was one of those, and yeah, finished it, and I had such a buzz completing it and watching us take off in this spaceship and the place blowing up, the base blowing up. Brilliant game, brilliant game. And the Zillion Zapper is what the Master System gun was based on, which is a fact I found out since watching YouTube and becoming a bit of a collector. So yeah, those are the games, people. So there you are, 77 odd games there. I'm going to play through some of them, and the ones I don't really like I'm just going to get rid of. And the only two that I'm really after is probably Power Strike 2 and is it Montezega's Revenge. sort of platformer game that looks very reminiscent of the games I used to love on the Spectrum, the platformers on the Spectrum. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching. Please comment down below and let me know what you think to the collection. Are there any games that I'm really missing out on? What games should I play first? You know, things like that. Tell me about your memories with the system. Absolutely loved it. Thank you very much for watching, and catch you again.